Hi there. You are listening to A Founder's Life, and I'm your host, Leo Gestetner. My guests and myself share our entrepreneurial journey and our methods for a balanced life. I'm joined here today by Jane Walsh. Jane, thank you for joining us today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Leo. I'm honored. I'm Jane Walsh, and I am Executive Vice President at the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, better known as NFTE. I've been at NFTE for 23 years now. I've grown up with NFTE, kind of in two parts. My career has largely been focused on nonprofit management and the world of advancement, which includes fundraising, events, and volunteerism. So very much the community aspects of the world of nonprofit and the people who come together to help make it happen. And I am married. I have two young adult children, and I live in Normal, Illinois, and I have a dog that I love very much.
Thank you. And your kids, they're both at college now?
Yes. My oldest, my daughter Lauren, is a senior at Indiana University, and I'm really proud to say she will be graduating in the spring, and she already has a job lined up with TJX, which is the parent company of TJ Maxx, Home Goods, Sierra, Marshalls. She did an internship in Los Angeles, but she'll be moving out to the Boston area. Framingham is their headquarters. And my son, Andrew, is a sophomore going to community college right now, but will be transferring this coming fall to Illinois State University. And he's studying business.
Okay. You're obviously with NFTE, I think it's two things close to my heart. I mean, NFTE obviously has been close to my heart for a long time, it's involved for a long time. But, it's both giving back to those in need and entrepreneurial at its heart. It's all about teaching entrepreneurship. Do you want to talk a little more about sort of NFTE and what NFTE is about and what NFTE does these days?
Yeah, sure. NFTE is a pretty special organization because, I think in many ways we pioneered the field of youth entrepreneurship education, and we use a train-the-trainer model. So we work in existing institutions and entities, districts, schools, community organizations, and we train their teachers or youth professionals in our program methodology and curriculum. And we have a very robust curriculum. So much so that there are many uses for it over multiple times with young people as much as possible in a pathway format. And we're all about teaching the entrepreneurial mindset. So helping young people discover who they can become through learning about attitude, skills, and behaviors of entrepreneurs. So whether they go on to start a business or not, they develop skills around critical thinking, creativity, flexibility, working in teams, comfort with risk. Our program is built around the train-the-trainer model, but every young person comes into our course and the experience is the creation of an original business plan. They come up with an original business idea, they create a plan around it, and they pitch that plan in competition. Most of our students actually take NFTE as a course in school for a grade, but the full demonstration of mastery is the creation and presentation of that business plan before a panel of judges, which typically are entrepreneurs and business executives and others from the local communities where they live. We have regionals, nationals, and a global competition. We're supported by many corporate partners, foundations, and individuals, entrepreneurs like yourself, who come in and support our students to create greater connectivity in the program, to connect industry to education, to help young people think about career paths or the viability of solving problems through social enterprise and business to make the world a better place, to make their lives better, their communities better.
Well, thank you. I often describe NFTE to people as really teaching what I'd think of as the two skills of an entrepreneur, which are thinking differently and having confidence.
Yes.
And whether they start their own business or they go into a job interview and have those two skills, they'll get a better job and that'll help them for the rest of their lives.
Well, I was just going to say on that point, NFTE's done a lot of research to be able to try to tell what is the proof point of what the difference is that entrepreneurship makes in a young person's life. And it can be some of those intangibles, but you see them when young people talk about their business ideas or their career or what a teacher helped them discover in themselves. But our research has uncovered over years, going back to Brandeis University, to Harvard and others, that young people's confidence and this idea of, yes, I can, is one of the most profound impacts of having a young person come in uncertain, unsure, not thinking that they have what it takes, to coming out of the program believing in themselves. So you are right.
I do love watching and I've worked with the same kids from like a local classroom competition, or even before that, coaching in a classroom, and you see them go all the way to nationals, and you just watch the confidence. You watch as they grow. And that is a skill they will have for the rest of their lives. I think there's nothing better than that. And it really isn't. People think it's about becoming an entrepreneur. It's not. It's about the skill sets. And actually, there's nothing easy about being an entrepreneur. And I've often said to kids, if you want to make money, then you probably don't want to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I love a great entrepreneur, business startup, nifty success story. But I'm agnostic on what young people go on to do, because we really just want to set them up for success, whatever that looks like. And for our young people who come from marginalized communities, anything that can help drive economic mobility and wealth creation for themselves and, generations to come. I mean, that's the name of the game. I always believe that it's not about slicing up the pie into smaller pieces, but it's about expanding the pie. There's a lot of room for more people to come in.
And I know the research is always a little complicated because we're working with children, which means that when they become adults, in other words, when they graduate, we don't always get to keep in contact with them. And by the nature of the fact we're working with public schools, they're not always as good at tracking as some schools would be. But as far as I understand, we have a higher, in principle, our graduates earn more than their classmates, although a lot of that really is because a higher percentage of kids who take NFTE end up at university than those who don't take NFTE. I believe there's been some studies around that.
Exactly. So we do see our young people have higher graduation rates, including on-time graduation rates, than their peers. Persistence in higher education, as well as business startup, 25%. So 1 in every 4 of our graduates go on to start a business at some point. Many actually keep their businesses throughout their educational experiences to help provide, some ongoing income. And they do have higher earnings than their peers as well. So it definitely works. A lot of this, comes from our ongoing self-reported data of our alumni, which we do every couple of years to continue to do our best to track more of them. Because to your point, they may take it as a middle schooler or a high schooler. And so keeping in touch with them is an ongoing need that we have for sure.
And, if you're looking at your journey, so you've been with NFTE sort of 23 years with a little gap in the middle.
Yes. So it was, 16, I guess 22 years. So 16 years and now 6 more years. So I'm heading into my 23rd year.
And what else have you done in your career?
Well, I've been in the nonprofit space the whole time. And, I guess when I graduated college, I just never saw myself in a corporate setting. Although I think back and I'm like, I probably could have been pretty good in sales or something, because fundraising, right? You have to get people to want to play on your team, so to speak, and really buy into what you're doing and offering. But I have worked at another nonprofit similar to NFTE. It was a middle school mentoring program, so workplace-based mentoring, which was pretty cool. I'm headquartered out of Chicago offices and work in Philly, throughout California, LA, and Bay Area. And I think that's it. Those were the 4 main markets. And that was sort of a short-term, kind of a transition after a very long career at NFTE. And then I went into higher education at Illinois State University as a major gift officer in their College of Fine Arts. And that was really fun work. Dare I say it was the easiest fundraising I've ever done, because you had a ready-made population of donors who have high affinity to the organization, a predisposition to giving back if they had benefited from scholarships themselves or really just had a great experience at the university. But because it was also fine arts, I had a lot of people in the community that supported, the music program or attended the concert series or loved the art gallery or the Illinois Shakespeare Festival. And I also got to spend some time with some pretty cool celebrities because Illinois State does have a really great fine arts program, and namely a theater program. So like the Steppenwolf Theater up in Chicago was founded by some graduates of Illinois State. And so Jeff Perry, Jane Lynch, Sean Hayes are all graduates of Illinois State, among many others. So that was really fun. But then NFTE called me up and said, hey, would you consider coming back? We've got some rebuilding to do. And I said yes, I think in part because, I feel like NFTE this is the house that I have built. And if it's having problems, I want to make sure that it is built to last. And so I made the move back over. Maybe looking back, if I knew then what I know now, maybe I wouldn't have done it, but it was hard. But some of the best work that I think I've done. It was different enough in that I had a much broader focus to work more deeply with our regional teams and like relationships like with you and other board leaders and major donors that care deeply about our work. So it's been hard and fun and challenging and all those good things.
And is it hopefully now 6 years later, it's a little bit easier and, you're seeing some of the fruits of your hard work?
Yes and no. I mean, we still have, some bumps in the road, right? Like finding and retaining talent remains a really big thing at NFTE. I think for many organizations, and building a bench to be able to navigate when people do leave the organization, that's hard. We're small, so you feel it. And, the funding environment is, our value proposition is still really strong, and we just have to get running down more opportunities. We've just got to bring more people into our work and we have to build an individual giving program. And I totally own that because we've been so focused on institutional support as our sweet spot. And it's worked really well because corporations or foundations, and foundations typically with entrepreneurial legacy families, right, where their wealth was built through longstanding family business and tradition, and they can make large gifts and they can do them over and over and over again. In companies, that can be hard if there are leadership changes or priority changes that are trying to meet demands of the market in a way where maybe they're more focused on adults and not youth, or it could be any variety of things. And so because we focus in that area, we haven't focused enough on it. So we are really getting very serious and taking steps to build out both an annual fund program to drive, smaller donors who we can then build deeper relationships with and build and stay with and build into major gifts over time. So we have, we have a campaign called Fuel a Future, launching the next generation of diverse entrepreneurs and leaders. And that's all designed to create awareness, engagement, and giving.
Yeah, I think it's, you mentioned retaining staff is hard. Well, I guess in the end, the problem is with a nonprofit, there's always a limit to what you can pay. And especially a national nonprofit where you've got staff all over, but you still need to hire people in some pretty expensive places like California. It's hard to compete with local California organizations.
Exactly. That is a real challenge. But, I think when I first came back to NFTE, I felt like everyone was new. There weren't many kind of long-term people, but increasingly we have people who've been with us 5, 7, 10 years, and that helps. So, the more that we can do that, the better. We have to we have to keep creating pathways too, right? Like people want to have new skills and new opportunities. They want to manage people. They want to manage budgets. And when you're small, you have to be creative to find those paths.
Yeah, that makes sense. And talk to you about health. For you, how does health look in terms of nutrition, fitness? What do you like to do? What works for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm very much in a health journey, and kind of middle age and wanting to live your best life and feel good. A couple of years ago, my doctor kept saying, you got to get your blood pressure down. Like I had perfect health, like never, my husband calls me a Viking. I never get sick. Like I'm tough. And I started showing that I had high blood pressure and they're like, oh, it could be genetics. Well, I have a really good friend and she's an MD and she's very much into whole food, plant-based lifestyle. And so she said, because I was like, I don't want to go on a medication. I don't want to be and I believe in medicine. Like I'm not saying that, but for me, I just don't want to be, that's not what I want. So I started very diligently doing whole food, plant-based, lost like 20 pounds and felt great. And that was 2 years ago. And admittedly, I've kind of slipped on that. And, life has just sort of gotten in the way. COVID actually helped, right? Because I didn't have to travel and, just was easier to have more time that I could structure and cook. And I find that if you can, you have to cook your own food to know really what you're eating. But, still working on it. And I walk regularly. I used to be a runner like you, but I have bad ankles, so I don't run anymore. But I walk anywhere from 3 to 5 or 6 miles a day with my dog. And I do yoga 3 to 4 times a week. And yeah, I have to keep being, smart about it.
Sounds like you've got a good routine. And I think it's, as you said, it's really about being mindful. It's not, I don't believe in anything being 100%. It's generally following, whether it be the fitness, nutrition, whatever, it's generally following that routine and more often than not. And that's what creates that path. And what do you like to do for fun?
I like cooking. I like cooking a lot. And my mom, always said when I was little, if you can read, you can cook. I think there's definitely some art in it, but I do like to cook a whole variety of things. I love spending time with friends. So I'm in a book club. Last night, for example, I went with 2 of my girlfriends to a holiday concert at the University of Illinois. And, so I like to step into some cultural things that keep me, in tune with the finer arts. And I'm an avid reader. Like you, I listen when I walk, when I'm driving. I listen to all sorts of books. I love nonfiction. I love fiction. Mostly, I prefer historical fiction. So one of the this past year, a book I read was The Marvelous Life of Marjorie Post. So the Post cereal family. And anyway, it was just a really, really cool story. So I do a lot of reading. I've also gotten into gardening and plants. And I know that might sound a little geeky, but 2 of my neighbors are master naturalists and they're very much into the environment. So they're focused on their yards are like, I call it the triple B. They're designed for bees, butterflies, and birds to really have the natural, all native plants. So my husband and I, we put in a native garden in our side yard, and that's been really fun to learn more about that. And I have a lot of houseplants, and houseplants are so good for you. They clean your air and they actually help lower your blood pressure. So I don't know, just kind of a wide variety. I'm trying to explore, new, now that I'm an empty nester, new hobbies and interests. I love college hoops, and I'm kind of not embarrassed to say this, but it's a really hard sport, but I love pro football. I'm a big Packers fan, but it's a lot of people get hurt. And so, but I do enjoy it. And I went to my first Packers game this past October.
Is that going to be a regular passion?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, it's an experience. Lambeau Stadium is a thing.
And the question is, can you turn off? Can you actually stop working?
Not really, truthfully. I mean, for me, I love working. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's like a problem. I mean, the problem is that you have your phone in your hand all the time, right? So you can, be responsive to things or do a little bit more reading to then have, I do need to create more focus time at work because going back to back on meetings is just really taxing and it doesn't allow for deep thinking and some of the real work. So I don't think I really do turn it off too much, truthfully. Yeah, I think about retirement. And then my husband says, you'll never be able to retire.
Retirement seems very boring. I could see working less, but
Yeah.
actually retiring, couldn't quite imagine that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. And I just did read something. I don't know if it was in the Wall Street Journal, but it was about retirement and people who like retired at, 63, 65, 68 and wish they hadn't because they just felt like it was a step back in their lives versus launching into something, new and exciting and fulfilling. So work is good.
And I can see the idea of why, at that kind of age, you want to retire and enjoy life a bit more. The only question is, what does retirement look like? And is it really retiring? And I guess you could argue, does that age make sense? As in, we're all living a lot longer.
Yeah.
So putting aside the financial aspect, the simple fact is you probably got another 20 plus years after that of healthy time if you've been living a healthy life. So it's a long time to hopefully enjoy life. But yeah. And what have been any pivotal moments in your life, whether it be from a personal perspective or a business perspective?
Well, personal, there've been a number of pivotal moments in my life. When I was 31, I lost my best friend to cancer and she had a daughter, my daughter's age. And that was really hard because, she's just so young and so vibrant. Right. So that, just still every day I think about her name is Jill. So that was certainly one. Another one was actually moving to New York City. From the Midwest, I went to Milwaukee for college. I moved down to New Orleans for my first work experience, which was a volunteer program, the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. It's kind of how I fell into nonprofits and fundraising, and went from there to New York. And that was pretty much a culture shock, but I had a compliment. I worked at a consulting firm before I came to NFTE, and one of my colleagues said, I asked a question because I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. And she was like, I forget that you're not a New Yorker. And I was like, yes. I'm like, she thinks I'm a New Yorker. So that was awesome. We lived in New York for 10 years. When moving back after we started our family, that was also a culture shock where I had to kind of lose that edge a little bit because people were like, so what? We don't care. You're not better than us. And then, so those have been formative, I think, in my, career of just having understanding of people's lives and where they're at in their lives and being supportive to them. My son has a chronic health condition, and that started when he was in middle school. And that's been a journey too, of like how he manages that as a young adult himself. And, he's doing well, but he's, has to take meds, and we go to the University of Iowa to see specialists and things like that. But there've been losing my father a couple of years ago was pretty formative for me. Lots of things.
All helped shape you.
Yeah. I'm the youngest of 6 kids. I will say that is also, I think, helped shape me because my siblings all say that I had it, easy compared to them because my parents were pretty strict. But, they all kind of they teased me and gave me a lot of crap, but I think it helped shape who I am.
And they're meant to tease you and give you crap. Isn't that what it's all about?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm sure in many ways did have it easier being I'm the youngest of 3. You certainly are more relaxed as each kid comes along. The first kid, you're worried you're going to break them. The second kid, you're like, okay, they don't break. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, literally, my parents were like, where have you been the last 2 days? And I'll be like, what? Like you've seen me. So they definitely did get more relaxed. It's hard when there's 6 of you running around, like it's hard to keep track.
And how does a balanced life look for you? When I talk about that, I don't talk about being in some perfect balance. It doesn't exist. It's not real. We're not monks. But, a balance sort of goes up and down, and there's sort of hopefully a center line to it. But overall, how does a balanced life look for you?
Yeah. I mean, increasingly for me, it's trying to feel happier. I mean, I can be an intense person, right? And I'm not in pretty much anything halfway. So, you know, choosing how I spend my time, making sure that I do have enough downtime is part of it because, and working from home, I've been working from home longer than a lot of people because when I moved from New York to Illinois, I kept my job. And so I think, balanced life for me is continuing to find joy in my work and to find happiness and pleasure and growth outside of work. And that's, I'm at this point, I feel like in my life where I am trying to be more intentional about what that does look like for me today and in the future. And it's evolving and I'm having fun with that and being a support to my kids. And I also feel like my husband and we're also just like in a really good place. Like marriage is hard, right? Like it is work. And I think we're just at a really good place where we're looking at how we spend time together and support each other and what the future could look like. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm kind of in a really pretty good place right now.
Great to hear. Perfect. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of, fun and weird to talk about yourself and if others will listen to it and what they'll make of it. Just want to try to be a good person in the world and, no, I don't know that I have anything else to say. I feel like, wah.
Yeah. And how can people find you?
Find me on LinkedIn. They can find me at NFTE. I'd say those are the two best ways.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining today.
Thanks for having me and good luck with the podcast. And I look forward to talking to you again off the podcast.
Definitely. Well, thank you for listening to today's episode. If you've enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, and leave a review.